turn it over to the audience for you to ask the questions. So think about your questions, and then we'll try and get you answers. That's what we're here today are, to have a dialogue, to have a chance to listen. Listen and learn. Learn so we can be better public servants. That's what we do. So thank you very much. Now, let's start, and I'll have our panelists introduce themselves, and want to go left to right, and as well.
Sure. Good afternoon. My name is Joyce King. I'm Chief Counsel at the Frederick County State's Attorney's Office. I am President of the Phoenix Recovery Academy. It is the only recovery high school.
My name is Carla Abney. I want to thank you all for having me here today. I am currently my profession is social work, and I say currently because I'm also an advanced practice nurse. I won't go with all my degrees, but I went to the University of Virginia for...
She has a lot of degrees.
I have a lot. So I used to be a lawyer, so I went to the University of Virginia, but I decided to become a nurse. So I have a degree in nursing, undergraduate from the University of Columbia. I have a master's in nursing from Catholic University of America. I have a master's in social work, that's my new hat, from Catholic University, and now I'm a PhD student at Catholic University with the dissertation on studying the effects of strong black publicity on black females. I want to thank you for being here today because I'm going to say a bit about social work. We do not take your children away, as most people think. We are the largest providers of mental health care in the country. If you've ever had counseling, most likely you spoke to a social worker. We do so much. We have veterinary social workers, medical social workers, financial social workers. Social work is at the cusp of psychology, counseling, and sociology, so we do it all. We take care of the total person, the holistic person. So, thank you for having me here today.
Excellent, Ed.
Thank you so much for being here today for this very important discussion. My name is Edward Burrows. I'm on the Prince George's County Council representing District 8. Prior to my time on the County Council, I ran all the juvenile diversion programs for the Prince George's County State's Attorney's Office. And I also served on the school board for almost 13 years. And so I'm so happy to be here because issues involving young people are so important. I'm also the proud son of a returning citizen who is my dad has gotten his life back on track. Our family's stronger than ever, so I care a lot about this issue. I also have two brothers who are in the juvenile justice system as well. So I care a lot about this topic, and that's why I'm here.
Thank you.
Hello everyone, my name is Ms. Jawanna Hardy, and I am the founder of Guns Down Friday. Guns Down Friday is where we creatively provide resources to youth affected by gun violence. So when a child is shot, we have a mobile trauma unit, and we go around to the scene where that child was shot and provide different resources. I also play a role at Children's National, where I see children from Maryland, from DC and Virginia that are shot, that are stabbed and injured in a fight. One of my most proudest things is I'm a veteran. I served in the Air Force. I did some time in the war, and when I came home, I realized our streets was worse than a war zone, and that's when I knew I wanted to create change. So I'm honored to be here with you guys today. And shout out to my mom. I always forget to shout out to my mom. I'm here today, so thank you.
Hello everyone, I'm Brian Holsteiner. I'm an officer with the Antelope County Professional Firefighters Association, and I've been a firefighter paramedic for about 20 years, including serving just over the line in Maryland City, and so and I've had the privilege of running a number of calls in your county. It's my privilege to be here and representing the people on the front lines of some of the fentanyl and opioid crisis, and also to represent some of the people and the victims of that. And so we really look forward to working with all of you and sharing the stage with these wonderful panelists on solutions. Thank you.
Thank you all. We've got a great group, so let's give them a round of applause. Thank you.
For them, with the licensure, we're looking at, as I said, eliminating that middle exam so that you can be more social to the workforce. The state of Illinois has eliminated that. With that, within 3 years, they had gone from 4,000 graduate social workers to 10,000 because they eliminated that barrier in between. Those people still have to work, do their jobs to become licensed clinical social workers and independent, but it puts so much many more people in the workforce. That's something to work towards, that we can increase that. We've always heard, how many people have heard, Black people don't believe in don't believe in therapy. We don't believe in that. Actually, Black people are very believers in talking to somebody who's getting therapy. Again, the barrier is they don't look like me. Will they know what I came from? We are all experiencing racism at one time or another. It may be harder for a social worker or a white social worker to know that experience, to be able to reach out and understand what a person has gone through. So that's the biggest thing. My biggest thing is, let's get more social workers out there. Let's look at eliminating these exams and the barriers to testing, the barriers to licensure, so that we can have our therapists.
I'll tell you, I really like what Carla said, and she's talking about, really good. I mean, she's talking about change, and I think that's a big issue we see in government. We've always done it this way, so we always keep doing it that way. And we've got to, make change and be disruptors. And when she's talking about changing the exam and disrupting to fix the problem, then that's a supply of a job that's hard work and low pay. And then it takes a lot of education to get college debt. So we've got to think about ways to help them with their college debt, sort of backdoor a way to get them better pay. Ed, what do you think?
I would say one of the major things that we have to do as a community is get rid of the stigma. So often, at least when I was growing up, you're told if you go see a therapist, something's wrong with you, you're crazy, you're kind of pushed to run the other way. But I think it's so important that we normalize and celebrate when people get help with their mental health. Just like we go see an academic advisor, we need to be able to so freely and so easily go see a mental health supporter. And I think that's something that we're trying to do, something that needs to happen, but right now there's a stigma that I think we're changing for the better.
I think Ed hit the nail on the head. The stigma really affects all of us, and we've got to really be comfortable saying, it's okay not to say I'm not okay. I'm not okay. And I need mental fitness as much as I need physical fitness. And we got to embrace that. And if we can all share our challenges, how our insecurities, our anxieties with each other, we'll be stronger. We'll be stronger together, because then we can all get the help that often we need. And so that's good stuff. The stigma is absolutely it.
No, absolutely. And I know we all can also do a better job at educating ourselves at the different signs. I had a friend a few months ago commit suicide, and so I started doing some research, and there were so many warning signs that were clearly there that I didn't see coming. And so to the extent that we can, as an entire community, learn the different signs when a young person's in crisis, it will, I think, make a big difference.
That's crucial. Did anybody realize that we have today, there'll be 135 suicides today? There'll be 135 tomorrow. And every single day, we have 50,000 suicides in this country every year. It's a crisis. And that's one of the biggest reasons why when I went to Congress, I said, there's a lot of things you can do in Congress. You can stick your nose in anything. But we decided we had to focus where people are just dying. And they're dying on suicide, and they're dying on overdoses. And of course, that's the next question. Overdoses, 110,000 died last year, 108,000 the year before. 80% are fentanyl. That's what my nephew died of a fentanyl overdose in 2016. And I bet you everybody in here, there's not a person in here that doesn't know someone that has perished in this tragedy. It's a national tragedy. 1 million folks are dead already. And we estimate between 2020 and 2029, there'll be another 1 million. That's what we lost for COVID. And yet we took trillions of dollars to fix COVID, trillions of dollars to shut the economy down, but we're losing the same number for addiction. So I just think we've got to talk about it a lot more, all of us, and then we have a better chance if we talk about it to get the folks in state government, local government and federal government doing things, because it is a crisis. And every day, it's not like, you couldn't pay your student loan, that's a bad day. But when you're dead, there's nothing. We're done. So let's talk about that a second. What do we see with our youth in this whole area of substance use disorder? We just had 2 students die of fentanyl right here in Laurel, right down the street at the high school. You want to, you've seen it dead on. You want to take a shot at it, Brian?
Yeah, first, I know everyone's heart goes out, to those families and to everyone who's been affected by an overdose. In my profession, the hardest calls are always the ones with children, and some of the things that you remember the most are those moments at in people's houses when families come across these things. So I guess what can we do? Now, some things that we found that are effective. The truth is that, especially with opioids, if we get to someone in time, Narcan is extremely effective. Now, what opioids do is they depress your respiratory drive, and Narcan can reverse that. And so if we can get there in time, certainly we can intervene, and again, a lot of those people we're able to save. Now, something that's been really helpful, and that's been a part of government doing good things, is increasing the availability of Narcan within the general public. It has extremely safe threshold. You really can't hurt anyone with it. You can't certainly overdose on it. All it can really do is help in the case of an opioid overdose. And even if you get it wrong and someone's not suffering opioid overdose, it really doesn't do anything then. And so no harm there. So certainly increasing people's training with that, along with the CPR, is one thing. Now the second thing, that again, the government doing good things, frontier in my industry is something we call like mobile integrated community health, which basically, and long story short, is trying to meet people where they are before they need the ambulance. Now, whether that's medical or substance abuse related, it is meeting them where they are, getting them the resources that they need. Now, here's kind of the unfortunate part is that, again, while in my county over in Anne Arundel, we've had a lot of success with this, it's really limited to medical problems right now because of lack of funding and lack of resources. So with the expansion of programs like the SAFER grants, which Congressman Trone has been an essential champion for, which brings federal money into local communities to hire local firefighters and local health professionals to meet the needs of fire and emergency services, to expand that into a community health model is something that I think could be a really untapped resource and something that could really be a game changer in how we're treating this crisis and epidemic, and getting us on the ground, the people and the resources we need to keep you safe.
Yeah, so from my perspective, with the Phoenix Recovery High School, as well as being a prosecutor, is that we need wraparound services. We need more services, and it's the current theme here that we lack a workforce, we lack access to these services. In the entire state of Maryland, there is only one residential treatment for juveniles, and you need private insurance. There's not a single place that a child can go if they're on Medicaid. There are 3 to 4 week wait lists to just even get assessed for what a child needs, what type of treatment a child needs. So there's definitely a gap in services for our youth. And what we've seen is the increased access to fentanyl, to prescription pills. And the state's attorney's office, the criminal justice system alone cannot battle this. We need collaborative efforts with health departments, with public-private partnerships, to combat this on all fronts. And I'm a big believer in the education and early intervention, and we need to start as early as elementary school and normalizing the discussion that it's okay, similar to the mental health, to get treatment. That in Frederick County, we've normalized a recovery high school, that going to school with other kids that are in recovery or in sobriety, that can celebrate that and giving them another alternative. What we've seen in recovery high schools throughout the country is that it improves a child's life. Relapse rate 70%.
to sober a child and send them away to treatment and then put them back into a school system surrounded by the same people, places, things just does not work. And sometimes they need wraparound clinical services in a structured environment so they can really thrive. And these are the types of investments we need to make in our community.
It's got to be also philanthropy sometimes. And I had the honor to be at the Phoenix House in Frederick when they opened, and we cut the ribbon there, and there was a lot of community. The community came together to help, with a little bit of government help sometimes, but that philanthropy of all of us helping each other and recognizing the problem, I think, has really been helpful up there.
Absolutely, and the ripple effect of allowing one child to get sober, the ripple effect that has on that circle of friends and families and brothers and sisters. And we've been able to touch, I think, up to 30 lives and 30 families and their circles in the last 4 years.
Let's touch on quickly, and Jawanna's an expert on this, the violence. I mean, right now we hear every day in the TV, every day in the newspaper, carjackings, youth violence, and how did we get here? I mean, I'm probably unusual that I grew up on a farm and there was nothing to do but work. So we didn't really know anybody, but in the city, all of our cities, it's not just Prince George's County, it's Baltimore, it's Howard County, it's everywhere. DC, we've got this youth violence situation, and what do we think is some of the root causes, and what do we need to do? What do I need to do as a policymaker to help?
So I can't help just to think about while I'm sitting here, the 3-year-old in Maryland recently who lost his life because someone wanted to steal a car. It's, I'm lost for words. But I also remember taking a group of kids to the White House, and they said, we're having these issues in our neighborhood, and they said, you have to go to your local, you have to go to someone else. Basically, we can't help you. So I feel like we have a lot of resources in Maryland and everywhere in Maryland, but how do we get to those resources? How do the kids get to those resources? I think about a kid who was shot 11 times, 13 years old. He was shot 11 times. And when he went back to school, he was suicidal. And he was crying out for help. It was on his paperwork, crying out for help. He got in a fight. They pulled his documents, and we see where he was asking for help. And somewhere the ball was dropped. Oh, we were supposed to put him in this, and so the resources are out there, but for some reason these kids are not getting to these resources. The mental health is there, but they're not going. So, we keep saying, it's a stigma. So how do we make it creative for kids? Like I found myself giving CBT to kids one-on-one because there's no program, there's nothing to fit these kids in. So now they're staying at home. They don't want to go to school. And now when you're not at school, you have nothing to do. And now you're out stealing cars.
And
Just to piggyback on that, I think a couple things. When I was in the state's attorney's office running the juvenile diversion programs, one of the things that was so clear to me is that what happens in the social economic status of the family has a huge impact on what happens with the child. And so one of the top things that we can do, which you're a huge supporter of Project Labor Agreements. In this county, we spend millions, tens of millions of dollars on construction. But oftentimes we have out-of-town companies, out-of-state companies come into our county, take our tax dollars, and don't hire our citizens. It's important that we tell those companies that if you want to do business in the state of Maryland, if you want to do business in Prince George's County, you must recruit, hire, and train Prince George's County workers, families, give them certifications, and then get those families to work. Because so many of these young people don't have solid family foundations with economic resources. To your point, very rarely do you have a child who just wakes up one day and says, oh, I'm gonna go take someone's car. There are generally tons of warning signs for years And those warning signs, if they don't meet a remedy, if there's not a program, if there's not a service, if there's not a response to the young person in crisis, you will go from a fight to an armed carjacking to a homicide. You know, that's what we see. And one of the reasons why I'm on this stage, and one of the reasons why I'm supporting you, is because when I was on the county council last year, our state's attorney came up with this program called the Emerging Adults Program. Essentially, it took young people who were in jail, while they were in jail, and gave them anger management, conflict resolution, connecting them with business leaders, connecting them with unions, so that when they got out of jail, they would come out better. They're coming out. And the question is, are they going to come out better or worse? And so I work with my colleagues to get 6 votes to put $250,000 to support this program. There's tons of research that shows if you invest in young people while they're behind the wall, when they're in jail, and you give them quality wraparound services, mental health training, anger management, job training, they come out there less likely to go back. So I work with 6 of my colleagues to put $250,000 in the budget to fund that program in Prince George's County. And my county executive, a former state's attorney, vetoed that money. Vetoed it. And when you invest in young people who are in crisis, when you invest in young people who are committing crimes in our communities, it doesn't just benefit them. It benefits our entire community, our entire society. And so Congressman Trone has been steadfast. His life's work has been investing in returning citizens like my father. His life's work has been pushing project labor agreements to force these companies to hire people who are from the community. And so that's why I'm on this stage. And those are some solutions.
And we're just, I've always been, as Ed said, a big believer in second chances. I mean, has anybody here not had some mistakes we've made? I know I have. You know, I'm a cancer survivor. I got a second chance. So that's pretty good. I'm pretty excited to be here, just. So every day is a blessing. But, you know, second chance are folks that have been incarcerated. As you said, 95%, they're coming out. Coming out. Let's let them succeed when they come out. And that's the way we're going to get crime down. Because they've got a job. They've got hope, a place to go, and to build a family. So when we invest money in folks that are going to be returning citizens, like my company's hired 1,400 in the last 7 years, returning citizens. So we're trying to walk the talk and do it, hire folks. And you know how many problems we ever had, 1,400 people? 0. Never one single issue. Because people like and deserve a second chance. And that's things we can do bipartisan, by the way. I've got a bipartisan second chance caucus, 22 Republicans, 22 Democrats, working together. Because everybody wants less crime, right? Of course we do. Carla?
As I have said in a previous question of mental health, this is a wraparound service where you will find your social work. And the biggest thing that is said today is stigma. We must remove the stigma. It's the bravest thing you can ever say is, I need some help. I need to talk to somebody. Going to see a therapist is more about getting coping skills. That do I wake up in the morning and see an affirmation that it's going to be a better day, but I'm able to talk to somebody. It's going every 2 weeks to say, I'm having a bad day, let's see what happened. Coming in 2 weeks more and say, you know, I had a good week last week. Then let's look and see what happened that we can. It's about case management. For all our young people returning and getting a second chance, you're going to have a social worker to say, well, what do you need to do? How can I help you? Let's look at these job programs. Let's look at housing. Okay. Unfortunately, as everyone said, there is such a lack of availability for mental health. The beds, if there are no beds, it's a waiting list. Having worked as a therapist at a private, large private organization all over the state, it was a waiting list. The waiting list is a lot because there are no therapists there. And the waiting list is because we just don't have the available, the inpatient programs and everything. It's such a need, and that is looking at how do we get more people into doing mental health care. It's very important for all of us here. just to say, I'm having a bad day, let me go talk to somebody. But it's the social determinants of health are so very important to everyone that we get help for them. It's very important. I think mental health is something that's been largely overlooked in this country. And it affects all of us. It knows no color, race, gender, anything. We all are affected at one point or another by mental health, by depression, by anxiety, for anything, for whatever reason. So it's very important that we tackle this crisis in our country. It's a public health crisis.
Joyce, you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I did drug court. I was a drug court prosecutor, drug treatment court prosecutor for 7 years. Every time we had a graduate, they would tell their story, and every graduate talked about starting using drugs at 10, 11, 12 years old. So I just echo the sentiments of Ed that it's early. We need to invest in our youth early, and it is a public safety investment, you know, giving other people another track, another opportunity at life. And I too, I mean, some of the best work that a state's attorney's office can do is diversion programs. And our office is actually, we just connected, we're bringing on social workers. You know, I mean, that you've never even heard of that as a prosecutor's office, staffing, having a staff social worker, because we want to look at individuals not from based on their actions, but based on where they came from, what do they need, how are we going to set them up for success rather than this revolving door in and out of incarceration. How can we actually solve the problem?
Yeah, if they get a job, recidivism is 8%. If they don't have a job, it's 75%. Jobs, education. I think the other thing I would like to hear from folks about is, a lot of times, you know, mental illness is something it's challenged our family, and a lot of times you say, hey, I want to put this on my insurance plan. And we seem to get the answer no all the time. And what does other folks think about that? Because I don't think the insurance companies are doing what they are required to do by law. By law, physical, mental disabilities have to be treated the same. Yet it seems like if I break my leg, I'm going to be covered. But if I have this trouble in my brain, we're not going to be covered. And I think we have to work as a community to fight the power of these insurance companies who are pushing us down and saying we can't get their help for the insurance money we paid. What do you think, Brian?
Yeah, I'm really thankful for this one. You know, as a paramedic and somebody who serves primarily on an ambulance, this is 20 years. This is some of the worst times we've ever had. And we're post-pandemic, and a lot of this is related to, like I said, the lack of resources and mental health and addiction. You want to talk about the most expensive and inefficient way to handle about anything, it's send someone to the emergency room. And the consequences for that are not just limited to the individual. Our ambulances, as you probably heard, as hospital wait times stretch into the hours and hours and hours. Because people in a mental health crisis, like I'll just walk you through it, when they enter the emergency system, it becomes a divergent two-plan path. There's jail and emergency room. Those are the only two things we have to offer them in the current paradigm, in our current system. If they end up on my stretcher, we're going to the hospital. Now, when we get there, they're usually pretty clinically stable, so they get triaged to a very low priority, but they do need supervision because they are in this crisis. And so there's no nurses to take care of them, there's no rooms or resources devoted to them, and so they're on our stretcher with our ambulances, and we can't go out back into the community and take care of anyone else. Now, and at the end of all of that, when everything in the hospital, the ER is poorly equipped to deal with it to start with, when all that's done, they get discharged back into the community with referrals, and it's $10,000, you know, because this is not something typically covered by insurance. So, yeah, that I'm so thankful to have the opportunity to talk about that, because it is one of the paramount things that we are trying to deal with, and it affects us all.
Okay, let's get some questions from the audience out there. Where's my head guy? Justin, which one? We got our first question where? Here.
How's that, sir?
Justin's already got somebody back there.
I think prevention is cheaper than treatment, okay? And I think the first problem, I think, with a lot of these youth getting into trouble is no father figure in their house, nobody to look up to. I think that's the main cause. And the other thing I wanted to say is the propensity of guns. We need laws to rein in the guns, because that's how the crimes are committed, and that's how suicides happen. And another thing is, I don't remember which, I used to be a nurse in the pediatric office, and I don't know, some states, the doctors aren't allowed to talk about guns. I don't know what it is in Maryland, but that's my view.
Okay, who wants to take a shot at that one there over here? Answer.
I just want to say a little comment with when she, the 13-year-old that I talked about who was shot, who's suicidal, when we started to rewind his life, like where, because the gunshot isn't what changed him. What changed him was he lost his father to COVID, and his world flipped upside down. And that is when he picked up a gun and he started to get in trouble. And because not having that father or that one other in the household, it makes it so tough. So I just want to applaud you for, saying that.
It's a really important point, instability in the family unit. Any other thoughts on that?
No, I agree, and there's so much that happened during COVID. I think sometimes we just don't have a father, but we have male figures in our life. No matter who it is, we reach out to them. Definitely our young men in the community need someone to look up to, someone to come to. Mom is there, she's wonderful. There's just some things I can't talk to my mother about. So whoever it is, that's a good thing about girls and boys, about mentorship programs. There are examples that we can look up to, and I encourage everyone, and it's definitely mental health crisis. Is there a counselor at school that you can talk to? But for our young men, we do need male examples, whether it's a father, an uncle, a neighbor, somebody, but it's very important to have those figures in your life. It's very important.
And there's so many great groups too that do mentoring.
Yes, we do intense mentorship. I used to have 20 kids. Had 20 kids, was rocking. 13-year-old was shot and killed. I changed my program to 5 kids because I'm basically the mom or dad to these kids. So you really, when it comes to organizations and you look at their caseload, they had 25 kids on their caseload. And when you rewind and look at the children that pass away, you look at their life and you'll see,
I wanted to also just comment on the education piece because our health classes are not enough. We need to supplement these health classes with real life experiences. The Phoenix Recovery Academy, we send in sober students to speak to students because they are more likely to listen to their own peers and people they identify with and look like them, like was said earlier, than their health teacher. We send in panels of survivors, of parents who lost their children, of narcotics police officers. So, so they have various lens of education and not just what's in a textbook.
One idea we've had, you go ahead.
I couldn't agree with what you all are saying. So often when a young person is in crisis and they make a mistake, they're stripped from the very programs and activities that could help them most. So for example, you have a child who's on the football team. They get a bad grade, they get into a fight at school, they're kicked off the team. Meanwhile, that child in crisis is at home in the neighborhood, God knows what, without any supervision. And so the safest place for an at-risk child is in the presence of a loving, caring adult. So we need to rewrite our discipline codes in our schools. Instead of kicking you off the team, we're going to make you come here on the weekends in the summertime, right? That's so differently. So I couldn't agree with both your comments.
One thing we heard, I was in Baltimore last weekend, we did a barbershop tour, beauty salon tour, and we heard something over and over is that we used to have rec centers when we were younger. We were 10, 11, 12, 13, we go to the rec center. And, there'd be adults there also to mentor and to help you maybe read a book, maybe work on a computer, play ball, whatever. But we've kind of lost that, so I think that's something we should be thinking about. How do we replicate that, perhaps? So there is a place to go. A question over here?
Yes.
My name is Francisco Ward. I have two questions for you. So, as far as the children having a new tool called like a telephone that they have access to content. He said a new tool. I have a psychology degree. In learning psychology, we have algorithms to modify behavior in any animal forms. And we have algorithms that increase radicalization of content. So they see something kind of weird, they click on it, now 10 more weird things come their way. So kids are being influenced with modern technology that wasn't around when I was not very long ago. So what are we doing to protect them from that? And then the other question, we have a DA and we have rules. Like I know for a fact that synthetic cannabinoids are against the law. But I can walk into any one of these gas stations, head shops, and buy Delta 9, acylated Delta 9O, 3 times more potent THC, known to increase first-time psychosis and make it more difficult for young people to deal with their mental health stressors. And yet, it's against the law, but because they say, oh, we made it from hemp, or we made it from this legal stuff, I can have somebody make fentanyl from perfectly legal stuff. That doesn't make the fentanyl any less dangerous. So we're not enforcing these very critical, we're giving them everything, and we're giving them the poison. So that's my question. How are we using our laws to stop some of these things, like the poisoning our kids with synthetics?
Let's take a shot at that. That's pretty complicated.
I can kind of give a general response to that with regard to synthetic cannabinoid, is that that's something that we battle as prosecutors because the chemical compounds are changing so quickly. The laws lag and are listed not in real time. So I know that FDA and you know, that they try to list out these chemical compounds in the criminal code, but it's different than you know, what's listed as regular narcotics or already scheduled narcotics. So I agree with you wholeheartedly, and it's something that, especially with the creation of vape pens and things of that nature, kids are smoking them in school and secreting them, and it's something that we work with the school system to enforce and to report so that we can put these kids in programs early on because they don't realize the dangers of their mental condition. And then as to your other question, and that is another topic that I'm very passionate about, is protecting children with regards to internet safety and with their digital devices. And I know that there are several bills before Congress with regards to protecting children from illicit conduct like Earn It Act, and I know that there's a plethora of communication bills that are before Congress that are addressing that.
And if I can weigh in, and you can focus here on me. This is something I dealt with when I was a nurse and did my parenting. So, you know, when you have a child who is tantrums, you kind of just ignore tantrums and they go away. So with the internet and everything, if we all remember what it used to be, talk to your children about what's going on. They are bombarded with so many things today, but they have no one to talk to. And some parents are, I can't talk about that. Be honest and open with your child and let them know what is good, what is bad, because we just don't know. Okay, so I think that's, again, with mental health, with allowing children to talk to me. I'm here for you. We may not like the answer, it may be a little squeamish, but we got to talk to our kids and let them know we are available for answers. Okay, someone take care of the child having a tantrum. So, but that's my 2 cents about that.
Can I say this before? So my daughter, she sent this to me. I'm Christian. My daughter is Muslim, but she says, as we work towards ending gun violence through organizations like Guns Down Friday, let's extend our compassion to those suffering in Gaza and Palestine. Just as we strive for peace locally, let's recognize the shared humanity globally and advocate for peaceful resolutions to conflicts. emphasizing the impact of all innocent lives.
Congressman Trone funds APAC. He gives hundreds of thousands of dollars to APAC. He sells settlement wines in his stores. He doesn't want to answer questions because he opposes Palestinian human rights. I've been waiting and waiting. He won't answer. He's getting me dragged off.
That might be a chance, I believe.
Questions about why he funds APAC. APAC supports apartheid. APAC supports occupation.
She's going to take you to this one time and place. I was told my parents, what is called a time of twos?
100 children.
I am talking. Your mother taught you better. Excuse me. So tantrums are children. I want what I want, what I wanted. And when we don't answer, when they have tantrums. So I used to be a new parent support program nurse, so I hear talk to parents about that all the time. So, but thank you for your thank you for that.
I think your daughter's comments were great. Thank you. Good stuff, thank you. Okay, Justin, we're back.
Hi, my name is Pia Morrison. Thank you all so much for what you contributed today. I just want to say, first of all, I appreciate your comment, but I want to say that African American men are very involved in the lives of their children, and we want to be sure that we dispel that myth, because that is indeed a societal myth that is rooted in white patriarchy. And number two, I want to say that one of the most important things I think that K-12 can do is to make sure they're investing in restorative justice projects, and unfortunately in having restorative justice counselors in schools. I actually represent members who work for Montgomery County Public Schools, the largest district in the state, and they are certainly, as a result of the budget cuts that they're experiencing, cutting the restorative justice counselors out of the schools, and as a result, those programs are going away. If we want kids to understand that when they make a mistake, there's a pathway back, we have to have someone who is coaching the staff and the students on what that looks like. And unfortunately, that's not happening. So I guess my question to you all as a community, and especially to you, Senator Trone, is when you think about, I'm speaking to you. How are you going to advocate to make sure that schools have the resources that they need so that they can support kids in a K-12 environment with the social emotional learning that they need?
Right. That's great stuff. Thank you very much for that. We're very happy to get the endorsement of the teachers union, 75,000 strong teachers, and we're strong proponents. We got two things we got to get right, and we got to get the education on our kids, and we got to keep our environment. We can't get those two long-term goals, education and the environment. We got nothing. All the other stuff is really important, but those are the biggest two. So on a specific question on schools, we advocate for IDEA funding. Right now, the federal government's at 14%, committed to do 40, and you and I know that number. That's where it should be. That's to help those amongst us that struggle and have disabilities. And as Hubert Humphrey talked about, we should work those that are least among us that are struggling. And so we've got to get that IDEA funding, which is tens of billions of dollars for the federal government to help our counties, help our states fund, and the other piece is mental health funding. Federal government has never given a dollar on mental health funding. Joe Biden gets all the credit. Joe Biden has $3 billion coming. It's going to come out this year on 12 different programs for mental health funding, K through 12. First time ever. But finally we got that done in the bipartisan Safer Communities Act. It's law, it's coming. And that's a big deal. But now our job as I'm an appropriator is to appropriate behind that. So we can't have an unfunded mandate that we gave them $3 billion and then they hired folks and then we didn't give them any more money. But that's what government does to our teachers who are underpaid, overworked, understaffed. I mean, how do we underinvest in education? Well, that's our children and our grandchildren, and we're going to underinvest in that? What are we, crazy? So, I mean, if you run a budget, You start with what has to happen. What has to happen is education. And what has to happen is keep our water clean, our air clean, our land, etc. Those are has-tos. Then we work on what's next. I think that's addiction, that's mental illness, and things where we're literally losing people every day by the hundreds. So that's top of our list. Any other thoughts, Ed?
I just want to, and I wasn't going to mention this, but you spoke about behavioral health in the schools, and it's so critical. I would like to solicit every person in this room's help on this. We are in the middle of a crisis right now in Prince George's County. Our county executive has introduced, at the request of the county executive, 2 bills. One, to take away money of the telecommunications tax from our school system and the energy tax. What that will do is result in about a $60 million cut to our school system. Our school system superintendent sent a letter that said, if the county executive moves forward with this, it would be catastrophic. Our chief financial officer of the school system said, the first place they're going to cut, behavioral health. The first place. And all of this, I have this on YouTube. Anyone who wants it, I'll email it to you, all of these videos. The last place, the first place they're going to cut if these bills go into place is behavioral health. Post-pandemic, our students need more behavioral health services, not less. And so the bills have not passed yet, which is why we still have an opportunity. So everyone in this room, anyone who's interested, please come up to me afterwards. We have to tell our General Assembly, our state delegate senators to vote no on this piece of legislation.
As you guys talk, I think about, I always say this in different meetings, the upside down triangle. And at the top, you have government. And in the middle, you have, people like us. And then at the bottom, it's the people that's most affected. It's those school workers. And I always say when there's good people at the top, we'll feel it down here on the bottom. So I just want to say, thank you, David, for just having me on this panel, because a lot of the times I don't get to sit on panels like this. So I just want to say thank you, and I just hope that, you running and you being in this position will change our community.
Thank you.
So we're going to do 3 more questions. This is 1, we got 2, we're going to end here with the gentleman who's hosting this, okay?
Yes, thank you very much, everybody. Enjoyed this panel. My name is Ruth Rolls, and I'm a registered nurse, and I specialize my life in substance use disorder and mental health. And one of the things that has been mentioned today, which I think is so important, is when I'm out and I meet somebody and they want help, I have an opportunity at that moment, okay? We can't wait. I may never see them again in the street. They might not have Medicaid. They might not have any insurance. I mean, what are we doing? I have to try to find them again in the street, to lure them somewhere. There needs to be a place where people can go and meet so they can get help. You're going to lose an opportunity, and you're probably going to lose a life. So I really want to say that. The other thing I want to say is, when I think about elementary school, I think about the difference between a lot of public and private elementary schools. And something that I have seen that distresses me greatly is, in the private elementary schools, they don't cut recess, okay? They don't cut the arts. They don't, there's music, there's all these wonderful things. And a lot of private elementary schools have 2 recess times. Why is it we're cutting all this from kids that need to exercise, that need fresh air, that need to run, right? And why are we punishing kids? You did this or that. You don't get to go to recess. That's the worst thing we can do. If somebody's that active, give them another chore. Hey, can you pass these around the room and help me? Right? I just feel like we're doing such a disservice to children in elementary school, especially the boys, okay? We know that girls mature a little bit faster than males and females, they do. There's been studies on this. And again, physical activity and all these things are just crucial to development and mental health.
When you have someone in crisis, they're very wherever, even in the clinic, they do have teams that can come and respond. And then when you have hospitals and crisis units to take a person having mental health concerns. The concern there comes then when they are stabilized, where do they go? And that's what you're looking at with all the programs. There are not a lot of what they call, we've done this one, but there are not a lot of beds. You have hospital beds and you have mental health beds. There are not a lot of mental health beds because there are not a lot of places to treat people. And there's insurance. Well, my insurance pays when you go to inpatient or outpatient. So it's a lot that needs to be done. And that's the biggest thing. If you're in trouble, you can go get help. You stabilize, you got to send you somewhere where we can, and then when you get there, it's up to the unit where you go to determine are they a danger to themselves and the public. If you're not a danger to yourself or your public, you know what? Let's give you some information, some resources, they'll go. So that's where so the workforce is a lot of things going on. That's what's happening.
Thank you very much, David, for organizing this. Thank you for the panel members for coming. Thank you for your service. All of you are doing great work. My question is regarding Muslim girls in school who wear the hijab. They are ostracized, they're excluded, they're targeted, they're bullied, and they become victims. And some of these girls are resilient. They can push back. A lot of the girls are not, and they internalize and they cannot realize their dreams because they develop this inferiority complex. So I want to appreciate everything you do, but please also consider this group of young girls who need some special attention, to make sure they are not bullied, they are accepted, and they are part of the school system. Thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you for bringing that up. Thank you very much.
Just a quick comment on that. As you were talking, I couldn't help but to think about my daughter. They're starting it's in a few other states, a no mask ban, I think that's what it's called. So, the Muslim girls are very, they're in an uproar right now because they feel like, we can't, we're not going to be able to be covered, or we're going to be targeted if we keep covered. So, just thank you for speaking out on that.
Thank you.
Okay, I lied. I misspoke. We have 2 more questions. Sorry.
Young lady, come on up, young lady. I got you.
Hi, my name is Edith Blackwell. I would like to address what a guy at AMT talked about, insurance paying for mental health issues. I would also like to inform that even if you have insurance, the co-pays are usually unreachable. So you need a pot of money to assist in the co-pays. I have a granddaughter with anxiety issues and those lockdown moments. She's wonderful now. She has been taught tools to survive. She graduated college. She's a kindergarten teacher. So that has helped her. But with $500 copay, you need a source of adding money to help the parents address that. And one last thing, when you do the events like this, you need a table. I'm a fan of New Amsterdam. How can I help? That's the question.
Yeah, good stuff. Thank you so much for that, but you're absolutely right. We've got to take on these insurance companies, the co-pays, the no-pays, and same with the pharmaceutical companies that just overcharge us for drugs that cost 3 times less in Canada, 3 times less in Europe. And a lot of that, and I talk about it, PAC, lobbyists, special interest money. That's something that is corrosive to our society. Last 2 years, 1.9 billion with a B. That's what was spent by the federal government on PAC, lobbyists, and direct donations. And if you don't think that does something that's not good, then there's a bridge we can sell you down the street. It's a big bridge.
Right, they're not giving them money for no reason.
I don't think so. And that's one reason why we're fortunate not to be able to take anybody's money. If you don't take their money, they can't own you. And I don't like anybody saying, here, do this, do that. Because we have a right to stand up for what we want to do.
And I think what you talked about, and congratulations to the young lady that you spoke about,
Right now, mental health is not seen as the same as physical health, and they both impact each other. If it was seen as the same, insurance companies would look at it much differently, and that's the biggest thing.
Okay, sir, we've got one more question from our host again here today.
Really, it's not a question, that I would like the community to know that right here where he's sitting today is the first high school in Prince George's County. And now it's Boys and Girls Club, and we're in dire need. And I'd like to give a shout out to Mrs. Walls because she's a strong pillar in the community. It works for everybody. But we need help to get this place up to code. So, you know, we got 4,000 kids in here. And if there's something that can be done, greatly appreciate
Hello everyone, I'm Leon Moody. I'm with Intransigent Minds. I'm also a local published author and one of the leaders in the Intransigent Minds that focuses on, we primarily build professional institutions, academic as well as spiritual and athletic organizations. But what I hear today from this beautiful panel, and I thank you all for taking the time to share, is the need. I grew up as well as an abandoned child. I'm 50 years old in this community with one of my counterparts and a senior to me in coaching as a USA registered boxing coach, Will Nicholson, has a boxing program here. We used to also have martial arts. I coached in both. And we have many other, a plethora of programs just in this Boys and Girls Club. But as he said, it's a lot of history here, a lot of need right here for all the things that you all just shared. We had some comic relief that came here to try to detract away from the importance of this issue of these babies. I mentioned that I grew up as a abandoned child. I don't need anyone to pity me or even empathize with me. But what I would ask you to do is empathize with the fact that we always say this thing that children are the future. Well, it's time for us to put the rubber to the road.
Right.
We've heard some very powerful statements, but two things I would ask you to take away from that, and I believe someone out here even hit one of the components, social-emotional learning. On me, I'm an expert in writing on social-emotional intelligence. One and the same, just semantics. But the thing, I heard collaborations. I'm going to volunteer myself. Don't you dare let me get out of this room without giving my information in our corporation. We have a curriculum that has already proven to work, been vetted. We have a book series. We have a childhood biography locally here. This isn't a commercial club for me. Don't even focus on that, but focus on the fact that, like I said, I am a long-standing coach in this area. Okay, this man right here, long-standing coach and mentor in this area. We also have his son, who I also have had the pleasure to be a part of helping. Beautiful spirit, recently retired professional boxer and champion, right here in this area. So I can imagine all the power players we have sitting amongst us and sitting up here. And we have a potential senator that he's owning it and claiming it. Okay, I don't stand on a political platform. However, I do stand on working for these babies and striving to impact them, build them, develop them. And I'm not talking about no damn prison system to put them in. I'm saying that we can pour into them now, change the narrative, and give them something. I heard people mention, but we've forgotten, they're creatives. Okay, they're architects. I'm not talking about necessarily the architecture of a building. I'm saying your mind. But if you're not healthy, if your environment is not healthy, what the hell do you think they're going to go do? Okay, and they're telling you they don't buy into what's being pumped into them anymore. They're rebelling against it. So perhaps the question is, maybe the system needs to be reformed. Maybe it's done. And I'm going to hush my mouth, but it's a shame on all of you all. You let me get out of here, you let them get out of here, especially if you have talent, abilities, or organizations, or institutions that we can all go to work in. I can personally say, I'm ready to go to work for you all. I don't need your money, okay? I have resources, I have the answers. But what, I'm tired of just talking. I want to work. Thank you all. Thank you.
I want to say thank you for those excellent closing words. I mean, it's about a community. The community pulls together and we share each other's struggles, addiction, mental health, systemic racism we have in our society. And we share these things and we embrace them, and then we say, we're not going to accept it. We're not accepting this because it can change. It can change because of you and you and you and all these folks. We want change. We want to be better tomorrow for each of us, and more importantly, our kids, better tomorrow for them. But so we implore you to pull together, help each other, look for opportunities to come together as a community. That's how we win. Then we move forward and we break the old habits that have to go behind us. We have to accept change. But I want to thank my panel. We had a great group, good discussion. Oh, thank you very, very much. And I want to thank everybody in the audience for being here today. There's some more pound cake in the back. Grab that, because if you don't,
You gotta make sure he's gonna get it.
I will. I know.
Blueberry pie.
And she's got me right. I may have already pulled aside some blueberry pie and I take home to my wife. But so let's grab some food way out the door. Thank you for being here today. Thank you for caring.
They've done studies at Hopkins and looked at children from early on in their environments, and when they compare their, like a child